relationships is one of the most complex things on the face of the earth. They really are. Because there's no two people the same. It's not like a machine or something that you can figure out how this is always going to behave and then work with it, because all people are different. You can give the exact same experience to multiple people and they'll experience it differently. So people are different. People come with different wounds. People come with different expectations. People react differently. People think differently. And so to bring two people together that are totally different on everything and anything is a problem. It's challenging. So relationships can be extremely complex. Everything you've ever experienced has a role to play in who you are today and has shaped you. And you can take two people and raise them by the same parents and give them the exact same experiences in life, and they'll still turn out very differently. Very complex. At the same time, relationships can actually be very simple. Because where does the word relationships come from? From which word does the word relationships come from? Relate. So if you boil down everything to the bottom line, relationships are simply how we relate. It's really that simple. How are you treating your spouse? How are you treating your kids? It's simply about how you relate. The better you relate, the better relationship you'll have. You don't relate well, you'll have relationship issues. It's really that simple. So, let's talk about this morning the differences between men and women. And I need to say to you that most people that come into my office for counseling, hundreds and hundreds of couples, they come in wanting me to change their spouse. If only she would do this, we would be great. If only she would stop doing that, we'd be great. So counselor, please take my side and persuade my spouse that he or she is wrong, that he or she needs to do more of this or less of that, and my relationship would be great. All my problems would be solved. So here's the deal. It is impossible. It is physically impossible for you to change your spouse to become the way you want him or her. It's not possible. The smartest PhD psychologists cannot come up with a program to change people the way they want them. If you don't believe me, just go to the prison system. All the governments on earth, every single one of them, have spent millions upon millions of dollars developing programs to rehabilitate and change inmates. You know what the success rate is? Next to nothing. That's why prisons are called a revolving door. You do not have the ability to change somebody else to become the way you want them. You do, however, have the ability to change you. So, it boggles my mind that people with marital problems think the solution is for them to change the person they have absolutely no power to change, and yet, on the other hand, they have no desire to change themselves over which they have power to change. Does that make sense? It makes no sense at all. Why would you invest all your energy to try and accomplish something that's impossible and spend no energy at all to accomplish and to tackle the side which can actually be changed? I mean, let's be honest. And I don't mean this blasphemically, but even God has a difficult time changing people. Right? It's not because He's not all-powerful, but it's because change requires people's consent and cooperation. God does not force. So why spend time trying to change your spouse when you could just change you? Once again, bottom line, relationships are simply how you relate. You be nice. You treat her like a queen, you'll be a happy man. It really boils down to how we relate. So let's talk about people wanting to make their spouse the way they want them. Most people want to make their spouses like they are. So I want to ask you a few questions. Have you ever been frustrated at yourself? Anybody? Yeah? I know I have. Have you ever been disappointed in yourself? Yeah? I have. I've been mad at myself. I've been angry at myself for things I did that I shouldn't have done, for things I said I shouldn't have said, for the way I behaved when I shouldn't have behaved, for being naughty as a kid. I've been mad at myself for decisions I've made even as an adult. And it still happens frequently. Am I the only one, or is that normal? You guys have that experience? Okay, so my question is this. If you get mad at yourself, disappointed at yourself, frustrated at yourself, etc., 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 if you find it difficult to live with yourself, what are you going to do with two of you? It's not going to help to change your spouse to become like you. Because even if she becomes identically like you, you're still going to be frustrated and all the other things because you do that at yourself. So, let us embrace our differences. Let us learn to live with them. And if any changes need to be made, change you. Change you. So, let's look at some differences that I'd like to talk about today. Men and women have very, very different needs. I'm going to share with you the 7 top needs of ladies this morning and the 7 top needs of men. I'm going to throw in some texts here and there. But just to share with you how women and men are totally differently wired. Our brains are wired differently. And if you understand these differences, they won't cause issues anymore. It will help you deal with them better. Sometimes, or actually most of the time, almost all the time, we think the way we think is the way everybody thinks. That's normal to us, that's natural to us. And so I want to treat my wife the way that makes sense to me because that's how my brain works. But if you really want a good relationship, you need to understand how your spouse's brain works, what his or her needs are, and then to supply those. And as long as there's reciprocity, you don't need to care about your needs. They will be met. So, major need number 1 for a woman. A woman needs to be treated like someone special. A woman needs to be your queen. Always treat her with the utmost love, respect, kindness. It's really simple as that. It's a fundamental need of woman. Now we guys, it's normal for us to say derogatory things to each other and have fun with it. Not meaning it derogatory, but, you know, if what's your name, sir? Oscar? Yeah. Welcome, Oscar. If Oscar and I play ball, and I throw the ball out of reach, and he runs and does his best to get it, and doesn't quite get it, us men have no problem saying, come on, man, Oscar, you can die for that. What's the matter with you? And he wouldn't be mad at me. That's normal for us. There's no problem. But when ladies play ball, she'll throw the perfect pass, and the lady will miss the catch. And guess what happens? Oh, it's my fault. I'll throw better next time. It's me. We're different. We're very different. But because this is the way we are, we think that's normal. And so I want to treat my wife with, come on now, you're going to die for that, man. Well, what's the matter with you? And then she doesn't take too kindly to that because to them, it just doesn't work that way. It's very, very different. Remember, men are competitive. Ladies are connection, bonding, sharing. Our brains are wired differently. So it's really important to understand that you cannot, as a man, treat a lady like it's normal for you to treat men. It's not going to work. You got to treat her like a queen, like royalty. You can thank me later, ladies. But no, seriously. If you want a happy marriage, it's one of the fundamental needs of a woman. Need number 2. A woman needs honesty and openness. When a ship sinks, and there's not enough lifeboats. Who gets into the lifeboats and who stays to drown? The women and children get into the lifeboats. The men, they can stay and drown. It's wired into our male brains that we need to protect ladies and kids. Would you agree with that? That's normal, right? You're a terrible male if you jump in the boat and let the ladies stay on the ship. There's something wrong with you. Men are wired to protect women, and so most people think that we're wired to protect women and kids only from physical danger. But that's not the case. The male brain does not distinguish between physical danger and any type of other pain, etc. So we're actually wired to protect ladies not only from physical danger, but from any type of pain and suffering. That's how the male brain's wired. So here's the problem with that. The problem with that is, my boss calls me in and he says to me, Pierre, our sales have not been going well. At the end of 3 months, we're going to have to let 40 people go. And I'm just letting you know that you're one of 80 people on the list that we're considering to let go. At the end of 3 months, depending on our finances, at the end of the quarter, we're going to make a decision as to who to let go. But I'm just warning you, you're one of 80 people on the list, and of the 80, we're going to let 40 people go. So that night, I go home. And the male brain says, I cannot tell my wife. Because the minute I tell her the bad news, she's going to worry. And she's going to be pained. And it's my duty as a man to protect women from pain and from suffering. So I'm not going to tell her. Besides, he's only going to let go 40, and there's 80 people on the list. I'm just going to work real hard these 3 months and hope that sales improve, that he doesn't have to do it. But even if he does, it'll be another 40, not me. And so if he lets other people go and not me, then my wife has suffered and worried for 3 months for nothing. As a male, I need to save her from that pain and suffering, so I'm not going to tell her anything. That's how the male brain thinks. But there's a problem with that. The minute you walk through the door and she gives you one look, she knows something's up. She does not know what it is, but she knows something's up. Men, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot hide it. You can hide what it is, but you can't hide that something's up, because she knows. It's just a fact of life. You can ask any lady. Yes? Yes? They just know. So, the minute you walk in the door, they say, well, what's the matter? They just know. So you don't want to tell her, because if you tell her, you're causing pain, and the male brain says you got to protect them from pain. So we don't want to tell them. So we make up something else. Or we just say nothing when in fact there's something, etc., etc. Now, women, on the other hand, are not wired to protect men from this type of thing. They're wired for network, for community, for bonding, for collaboration, for sharing. Women also measure their relationships by the frequency and the depths of secrets shared. You watch elementary kids in the playground. You give the boys anything, and within minutes, they're having some game that's competitive. You watch the girls. They will play, but before long, there are special alliances, and they're going to whisper in each other's ears, secrets. And as a teacher, you just have to look at who's telling secrets to whom, and you know exactly who the best friends are. Because women measure the closeness of relationships by the depth and frequency of secrets shared. So when you walk in the door and she can see on your face there's a problem, she lights up. Because this is a golden opportunity to bond, to share, to network with you. But then you don't tell her. Now, we men punish each other very overtly. If Pastor Teller does something against me, I'm just going to tell him, come on, man. And I'm going to tell him straight what the problem is, and we just overtly punish each other. Women don't do that. Women punish each other by exclusion. You're not coming to my party. I won't talk to you. Or let's grow up a bit. No sex. Women punish by exclusion. So let's go back to our scenario. You walk in the door. She sees this problem in your face. She says, aha, a wonderful opportunity to bond, to share something deep and secret, because that's how we measure good relationships. But then when you don't tell her, the lady is excluded from what's going on. She feels punished, and she can't understand why, because what has she done wrong? And she feels punished. Not only does she feel punished, but she feels that you're not as close to her, because how do women measure relationships? By the depth and frequency of secrets shared. You have a secret, you're not sharing it with her. What conclusion does the normal female brain come to? You're not close to me. What have I done? What's wrong? It's really, really hurtful. A fundamental need that ladies have is openness and honesty from men. Now let me persuade you logically why, men, it's always a good idea to shut down your brain and not listen to it when you have something deep to share and your brain says, don't share this because she is going to cause her pain and worry. You got to protect her from that. Here's why, men, that does not work for women. It's really very simple. If you tell her up front, she's going to be pained with whatever the news is. It's true. She's going to worry for 3 months that I'm going to lose my job. She's going to suffer that pain. But if you tell her up front, she only suffers that pain. Look what happens when you don't tell her. If you don't tell her, you're simply delaying, you're deferring her finding out, because I guarantee you, she will find out. You cannot keep it from her long term. I don't know how, but women find out. It's just a matter of time. They'll find out. So when they find out, they will be pained anyway. You've only deferred it. But remember, if you tell her up front, she suffers only once from whatever the news is. If you don't tell her, she's going to suffer the same pain anyway when she finds out, number one. But number two, she's suffering a second time by the exclusion, by you not being close to them, by not bonding, etc. So she pays twice instead of just once. Men, it just makes logical sense for us to be open and honest with our wives and to share with them whatever's going on, because it's a fundamental need that ladies have. Now, for those men that think I'm talking nonsense, let me just make one statement. If your wife, men, catches you lying just once, you'll pay for 5 to 10 years. The minute you lie once and she catches you, you have instantly turned her into Sherlock Holmes. She will not believe you, no matter what you say. You can present proof in future. She will not believe you. She'll want to find out. She'll start looking at your cell phone and emails and asking friends and so forth. You turn her into Sherlock Holmes. That's human nature for ladies when you lie to them. Men, if you want to save yourself a ton of problems, be open and honest with your lady, and she will just love you for it. Don't hide anything. Share open, honest. Number 3, women have a need for stability. A woman needs to know where she stands with you. A woman wants stability. They don't want this up and down type of thing. And us men, or let me just say all relationships, move closer and further apart all the time. All relationships. It's normal. After a few nights of intimacy and wonderful sharing and stuff, you guys are very close. But then life gets in the way and extra time at work and all sorts of things, and you're not spending as much time with each other, and you just drift apart a little bit and you come back again, and all relationships are that way. It's normal. It's totally okay. What's not okay is if this movement closer and further exceeds certain boundaries. If it moves in a narrow band, your relationship's in good health. If it exceeds certain boundaries, your relationship's in trouble. Especially if you're the woman. That's why it's important to be fairly stable and not have huge swings of drifting very far apart. It's important because for women, they require stability. Gentlemen, 45% of all men who get sued for divorce by their wives have no idea that anything's wrong. They're happy. They cannot understand why she's miserable. 45% have no clue. We'll get into the reason in a minute. Number 4. A woman needs commitment to both her and the kids. Women are strong on commitment. Women have a desire for commitment. If you do not give her commitment and you're not strong in your commitment, ladies feel used. They feel used and abused. They feel like an object. You should not enjoy the benefits if you're not committed. Friends with benefits don't work. It never does. Even in the secular world, it never does. One or two things happen. They do develop feelings for each other. And when you do not act on that feeling, it splits up. Or, if the feelings don't develop, they become enemies soon enough. It doesn't work. The one without the other is broken. You need both. So it's really key for you to know as men that you need to show your commitment to ladies. Men, do you know what the number one thing is? That women interpret that you are not committed to her and that you are not relationally safe. Guess what the number one thing is that men do that women interpret as you not being relationally safe and not committed to her? Anybody want to guess? One thing that men do. Let me tell you. When you have conflict, you leave. If you have a fight and the man walks out, I've had enough, I'm not dealing with this, and you walk out, you communicate to your lady that you're not committed and that you're not relationally safe. In fact, women cannot move on from conflict unless they found closure. And when you walk out before there's closure, you've set yourself up for major problems. Men and women are different. You see, look at my clothing. What have I got on? A suit. Thank you, sir. A man's brain looks like a suit because men wear suits. It's got tons of pockets. Pocket here, pocket here, pocket here, pocket in front, two in front, two in the back. Inside's got one here, sometimes multiple ones here, one for coins. The male brain has got all these pockets, and every single pocket is for a different purpose. You don't mix them. One's meant only for coins. You don't put other stuff in there. It's only got coins. And your pen always goes in this one. You never put a pen in these pockets. So the male brain has all these pockets, and they're labeled. Money, pen, sex, finance, fighting. You got all these pockets in the man's brain, and they're separated. They're not connected to each other. So when a male brain takes something and puts it in a pocket, it's only in that pocket. It doesn't impact any of the other pockets. It's got nothing to do with them. And a male may not go back to that pocket. It may just open another pocket. That's why a man can have a fight now And 10 minutes later, go to the bedroom and say, "Hi, honey, I'm in the mood," and be ready for physical intimacy. Because the fight's in this pocket, and the physical intimacy is in this pocket. They're not related. They've got nothing to do with each other. A man simply moves on. The minute the thing's in a pocket and closed, he moves on. It's gone. It's done. That's why a man in the middle of the conflict can simply decide, the pocket's closed, I'm done with it. Now, one of the pockets in the man's suit has a big hole in it. And anything the man places in that pocket simply falls through and is gone. Doesn't stay there. So the man comes home, he's tired from work. He watches the news on TV while you cook. The dinner is ready. You sit at the table and you say, "So honey, what was in the news today?" And what does he say? "Nothing." Why? It was placed in the pocket with a hole in it. And actually that pocket happens to be our favorite pocket. We put a lot of things in that hole. Things we don't tend to deal with again, we just put in that hole, it falls through, and it's gone. Now, ladies, please understand that the male brain, everything is compartmentalized and separate, and they don't impact each other. We don't multitask. Now, men. Ladies don't wear men's suits. They carry handbags. So, whenever they're done with something, they open the handbag, they put it inside. They close it. So, you have a fight, what does she do with it? She puts it in the handbag. She closes it. 10 minutes later, you come into the bedroom. "Hi, honey." She says, "Okay, no problem, let me see." She opens the handbag to get the sex. And when she opens the handbag, what's the first thing she sees? Fight. Oops, no, sorry. Because everything's in the same handbag. Everything's related. The minute you want to discuss this topic, when she scratches around to find it, she stumbles on all these other things. So for women, things are related. For men, they're not related. So on this point then, women need commitment to her and her family. Commitment is the glue that keeps the relationship together when tough times come. And if they figure you're not going to be there in tough times because you've not demonstrated commitment, it impacts everything because it's in the handbag. And every time she scratches to find anything in the handbag, she stumbles across this problem. And it impacts everything. I know it's a foreign concept for you men because we have pockets. We don't think that way. But please start thinking that way. If you don't believe me, ladies, is this true? So, you got to understand the difference between the two brains. So men, let me teach you a secret. A secret that's worth gold. This secret will let you have as much physical intimacy as you want. Is that worth it? Okay, listen up. Hot relationship equals hot bedroom. Cold relationship equals cold bedroom. Bottom line. Bottom line. Remember, ladies punished by exclusion. The relationship's cold, forget it. Everything's in the handbag. If everything in the handbag's nice and pleasant, everything's pleasant. If any one thing in the handbag's not, whenever she opens that handbag, it meddles with everything else. I began by saying relationships are all about how you relate one to another, how you treat each other, bottom line. So, as long as you have a hot relationship, and by that I mean specifically emotional intimacy and so forth, you'll have a hot bedroom. And I guarantee you, you have a cold relationship, you'll have a cold bedroom. It's really that simple. No gimmicks work, that's it. Because physical intimacy is something that actually flows automatically out of great relational safety, great emotional intimacy, great commitment. Once you have all those three in place, physical passion automatically is the result. It just flows. Need number 5. A woman needs conversation. We men are doers. We're fixers. Ladies don't work that way. Yes, they do things. Yes, they fix things, but that's not what drives them. That's not what gives them happiness. What gives them happiness is conversation. Now, you both come home at night. You both have worked all day. You're tired. You've had a miserable day. Your batteries are flat. How do we recharge those batteries? Now, if you're an introvert, your battery gets recharged by being alone. When you're an extrovert, your batteries get charged by being with people. But there's gender differences as well. A man recharges his battery by having a cave experience. The slang for that is, if you ask a teenager, is vegging. You know, being a vegetable, just turning off and not doing anything, just being, existing. When he's in that state, his battery gets recharged. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me to do anything. I just want to be. Whether that means watching something that I'm not really paying attention to, whether that means some little hobby or whatever I do in a man cave, that's how men recharge their batteries. Women, on the other hand, recharge their batteries by conversation, by being with you. That's what drives them. That's what fuels their happiness. So you can see that these needs are actually mutually exclusive. You're both tired. She has the need to recharge her batteries. You have a need to recharge your batteries. Your need says, leave me alone, I want to just be. Her need says, come, we need a fellowship. They're opposed to each other. If they have fellowship, the guy's battery doesn't get recharged. If he's alone, her battery doesn't get recharged. They're opposing each other. This is a problem. Men, I want you to know that when women want to recharge their batteries and they say, talk to me, let's have conversation, how was your day, etc., etc. She's not doing so because she wants to keep you from recharging. She's doing so because she has a fundamental need. Women get recharged by fellowship, by talking, by conversation. So men, you have to give her more of that. You can't come home and be doing your own thing and expect a happy wife. You have to sit her down and be interested in her very day, what she went through, what happened, how did she experience that, how does she feel about that. You got to talk to her. But at the same time, ladies, if men do that, their need to recharge their battery doesn't happen. In fact, talking to you drains them even further. So what do? How do you solve the problem? One way to solve the problem is when you get home and you're both tired, is to spend 2 minutes assessing who's more tired than the other one. And whomever's more tired gets their batteries recharged first. And then you swap. And then you do the other one. Men, please, I beg of you, your cave experience should not exceed 20 minutes to a half an hour. There's nothing worse for you to come home and disappear in your man cave or doing whatever you want to do, and her fundamental need is not being met. There's nothing you can do to ruin your emotional intimacy more than that. Ladies, true? So men, please, it's a fundamental need of ladies. You got to give them time. You got to talk to them. And if you don't have anything to say, guess what? It's not a problem. It's okay. You just need 2 or 3 little phrases. That's all you need. Tell me about your day. And whatever she says, if you don't know what to say, tell me more. just ask. Just ask. Explore their day. Explore their experience. Explore their feelings. Now, let me come to point number 7. Point number 6, is a woman needs to be listened to. One of the biggest complaints that women have of men is that women hear, but they don't listen. You're there, but you're not there. You're there in body, but your mind's elsewhere. Look, the fundamental need of a lady is for you as a man to get what she's going through, to get what she's experiencing, to understand how she feels and why she feels this way and her experience. If you want a happy wife, gentlemen, talk to them, conversation, and listen. Just listen. But as she says, you got to be there. You can't be elsewhere. You got to be there. Men, it's real simple. Listen for emotion. Even if they're not talking about emotion, you'll get it from the body language. Think how you would feel if whatever she's telling you happened to you. And then just throw it back at her. That's how you listen. You throw it back at her. So after she's done with sharing that her boss ill-treated her during the day, etc., so I hear you say that you really feel betrayed by your boss. Now she feels understood. She feels listened to. She feels that I paid attention, that I understand what emotion she's going through. And if you hit it wrong, she's going to tell you, oh, no, I don't feel backstabbed. I feel betrayed, or I feel abandoned, or I feel neglected, or she'll just tell you. Well, tell me about that. As long as you mean it, you got to listen. And then you throw, once again, when you get to a pause, etc., just throw back at her what you understood she's going through. If you can do that, you'll have one happy wife. Emotional intimacy will simply explode. I'm running out of time. So I'm going to have to now move on. Thus far, I've only spoken to the men. I've educated the men as to the fundamental needs of a woman and told you what to do in order to have a happy wife. Now let me talk to the woman. Yes, sir. Number 5 was conversation and talking. Number 6 was to listen. Number 1, treat her like a queen. Number 2, honesty and openness. Number 3, stability. Number 4, commitment. Number 5, conversation. Number 6, listen. And remember, with listening, you're not listening at the words by themselves. You're listening at her experience. You're listening for her emotions. You're listening for what goes on inside. What is the difference? What is emotional intimacy? What is emotional intimacy? How does emotional intimacy work? Well, for it to be intimate, it's got to be deep, right? So what is personal and deep? Okay, so I'm talking to you right now, and I'm making eye contact with you. I'm looking in your eyes, and I'm making eye contact with you as I talk. But you'll notice, I don't stare in anybody's eyes. You cannot look in somebody's eyes for more than 8 seconds at a time without violating their personal space, unless you have appropriate emotional intimacy to be there. I can shake your hands and greet each one of you. But how will you feel if I hold on to your hand and not let go? Now it changes from a greeting to intimacy. I cannot hold your hand for more than a few seconds before it becomes intimate. And that's only okay if I have appropriate emotional intimacy with that person. Now I can stare into my wife's eyes for hours and it's not a problem because we have the emotional intimacy for that. But it's inappropriate for me to do that with any of you. Right, so also I get to see your face, your arms, and sometimes part of your legs. I can't see what you're hiding. I can't see personal body parts because I don't have emotional intimacy. It's inappropriate. But my wife and I can see each other naked is no problem at all. What I'm trying to teach you here is I'm using physical intimacy to try and explain emotional intimacy. So physical intimacy is when you allow somebody access to where nobody else has access. I can look at my wife where other people can't. I can touch my wife where other people can't. So physical intimacy is you allow your spouse access to where other people don't have access. Number two, the amount of time is not limited. I can gaze into her eyes for hours. I can hold her hand for hours. The time is not limited, etc. Now, let's see what we've learned about this and apply it to emotional intimacy to help you better understand what emotional intimacy is. Emotional intimacy is when you allow somebody access to your heart's emotions where other people don't have access. The clothing needs to come off for you to be physically intimate. Emotional is exactly the same. You got to go deep. Not stuff you share with anybody, deep stuff that you share with nobody. When you allow somebody access to that, that's emotional intimacy. You don't limit the amount of time. If I get to work and somebody asks me, how's your day? And I say, oh, I had a terrible day. If they start probing too much when I tell them I've got a medical condition or whatever, they don't have enough emotional intimacy to do that. But my wife can, certainly, because we have that. Well, the same from physically I'm applying to the relationship now, is that you can't discuss deep psychological or feeling issues with somebody before it becomes inappropriate if they don't have the bonds. But conversely, if you have appropriate emotional intimacy in marriage, but you don't go deep, you don't go personal, you don't go where other people don't have access, then it is not intimate. And then you're having a relationship with your spouse that anybody could have. It's a brother-sister, it's a platonic relationship. If you want emotional intimacy, you've got to go deep. So, when you listen to your spouse, men, it's not about listening to the words. You got to go deep for it to be intimate. So you got to really understand what she's going through, how she's feeling, and go deeper and probe. When you are seriously into that, emotional intimacy mushrooms. And emotional intimacy is what builds the relationship, especially for women. Now, let me get to men. Men, I'm going to I'm just going to cut you short because I only have another 12 minutes left. But we're tough, we can deal with it. Before I go on to men, I'd just like to throw out one verse. Men, if you disagree with what I have shared this morning about ladies, my final message to you, men, is one simple text. It's found in Proverbs 16:25. It says, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but the end of it is the way of death." If you do your relationship with your lady the way according to what seems right to you, your relationship will die. It will not be happy. Now, I know the context of this text doesn't necessarily speak about marriage or relationships, but the principle applies. Men, if you want a happy marriage, you got to deal with it from the female brain, not your brain. Don't do what seems right to you. Do what she needs. Now, you don't have to worry about your needs, because remember, marriage is reciprocal. As long as she does the same, your needs will be met. Marriage is not about what you can get. Marriage is about what you can give. And as long as both of you are giving, and both of you are placing the other needs above yourself, you don't have to worry about what you're going to get out of it. Your needs will be met. Does that make sense? Now, men, we have a few minutes left. Let me talk to the ladies quickly. Ladies, men need admiration and respect. Men need you to admire them. They need to hear that they're doing a good job. We don't often hear that. We often hear, "Get over it." To men, everything's a competition. When you're telling us your story about how your boss at work ill-treated you in the day and humiliated you and all those type of things, you know what the male brain thinks? The male brain, everything's about competition. When you're telling your story, we're racking our brain, the smoke's coming out of our ears, we're trying to find a solution for you. And the solution is to beat the boss because we're in competition. So the advice we're going to give you is, well, tomorrow when you go to work, tell that boss such and such, or do such and such, and it'll be the end of that story. Now, men, when you do that, a lady will say, or at least feel, if she doesn't say it, you didn't listen to me. Because she's not telling you to find solutions. She's telling you to bond, to network. She's telling you to develop emotional intimacy. She's telling you to feel listened to. But we men are in a competition. So ladies, if you deal with us, please understand that everything for us is the competition. So when something bad's happening at work or financially or whatever struggle we men are going through, it's a competition for me to beat that. That's one reason, by the way, when you drive and you get lost, a man cannot ask for directions. Because asking for directions means we admit defeat. It goes counter the way our brains are wired. So a man is all about competition. So here's the deal, ladies. When he's sharing something that is a difficulty, that's a problem, whatever else, the female brain says, listen to him. Get what he's going through, etc. Well, guess what? He doesn't care about that. His brain's not work that, isn't wired that way. Everything's a competition. And when two teams are competing, there's no such thing as a middleman. You are either on his side or on the enemy side. Plain and simple. A fundamental need for men is to know that you're on his side. There's no such thing as neutrality. And the way in which you communicate to a man that you're on his side is, go guy, we're in this thing together. I support you. A man needs to feel admired and respected that you're on his team. Point number 2. Ladies, I know you're punished by exclusion. And I know that that sometimes includes using physical intimacy or the lack thereof as a punishment to get conformity. I want to share with you, ladies, that sexuality for a man is not a luxury. It's not a want. It's a fundamental need. So, just be aware of that. It doesn't mean that you've got to give in every time that he's in the mood and you're not. But be careful about withholding physical intimacy as a form of punishment. Find something else. Because you're really damaging his battery big time. It's a fundamental need. Men need to have physical intimacy. And by the way, did you know that it's biblical? I'm not talking about the texts that say that it's a marital right. Because I know many men abuse that text to try and force their wives. But I want you to know that physical intimacy that's forced is rape even within marriage. It's not acceptable. It's simply not acceptable. So don't use those texts to persuade each other or to force each other. I'm referring to Paul's text, where Paul says, specifically in the context of sexuality, do not withhold one from another, lest for a short period of time for prayer and fasting, and then get together again, lest you be tempted. That's verbatim. Paul in Corinthians. Why does Paul say this? Now, Paul probably didn't know this, but the Holy Spirit who inspired him, obviously, God made us, he knows science very well. The hormone that tells your body to bond, to connect, to trust, and love, the love hormone is called oxytocin. We didn't know what it does until about 25 years ago. This is brand new science. Oxytocin tells you to bond. When a baby gets born, the mother's body produces a ton of oxytocin that is actually transmitted through breast milk to the baby. And that's one reason why mothers and babies are very closely bonded, more so than dads and babies. Because there's lots of oxytocin, not so much. Low levels of oxytocin are also developed with physical touch and so forth. But when you are sexually together, your body gives you a 600% jolt of oxytocin. Bond, trust, love. By the way, I do see some young people. Young people, I'm doing this at the expense of men because I probably won't finish. But this is valuable for you young people. Please listen carefully. The world out there says that it's okay for you guys to just sleep with each other and live together before marriage. That's what the world out there says. Let me just tell you, not religiously, what science says. Young people, every time you sleep with that lady, you get a 600% shot of oxytocin that says bond, trust, love. But guess what? 3 months later, you break up. Now, you go through tremendous pain. And by the way, the more you sleep together, the worse the pain will be. So now, you break up, and you're experiencing severe psychological pain. 6 months down the line, you meet another person. The relationship goes wonderfully. Before long, you sleep together. 600% oxytocin every time you do that. Bond, trust, love. But this time, your psychological side of your brain, your emotional side of your brain says, wait a minute, are you nuts? Remember the pain? Remember how terrible it was? You can't do this. I can't go through that pain again. And so what develops is called, in psychology, cognitive dissonance, where one part of the brain fights with another part of the brain. This is what happens when somebody likes to smoke, for example, but gets information that it kills you. The two parts of the brain fight. And before long, the more you do this, the more this fight gets between bond, trust, love. Are you crazy? Pain. No, ouch. Don't do this. The brain fights. And before long, you develop what is called detachment disorder. You have problems with bonding. That's why there's a whole generation today who have problems with bonding. And this is how it works. They get into their 20s, they start a relationship, and everything's hunky-dory, wonderful, beautiful, until it gets to a certain level in the relationship of commitment, etc. Then all of a sudden, they start saying things like this. See if you've heard of them before. It's not me, it's not you, it's me. I need a bit of space. I'm just confused. Let's just separate for a while. We'll get back together. Just give me a few weeks. I need to sort out myself. And guess what? They don't get together again. And 6 months down the line, no problem. They meet somebody else. Oh, everything's wonderful. The relationship goes to the exact same point. And all of a sudden, it's not you, it's me. I'm so confused. I need to sort myself out. Just give me some time, etc. And they go through the cycle. Guess what the cause is? Now, this is the reason why Paul says, do not withhold one from another, except for a short time for fasting and prayer, lest you be tempted. Because if you are not intimate together, your levels of oxytocin drop. You're no longer getting the 600% shots. And oxytocin is the glue for love, bonding, and trust. So when those levels are low, that's why you're more apt to temptation. Lest you be tempted. It's exactly what Paul says. When you feel like this, the temptation is not going to rock you. When you feel apart and the temptation comes, it's easier to give in. So ladies, please understand, a man has a physiological need for physical intimacy. It's not just a want. Please find something else to punish him with, if at all possible. Men need physical intimacy. Men, you can thank me later. Number 3, a man needs peace. A man just wants a peaceful relationship. A man hates relational and emotional drama. There's nothing that chases a man away as much as constant drama. They just want peace. That's one reason why they sometimes leave when there's conflict. First of all, they've decided it's in the pocket, it's done with them, I don't need to deal with it anymore. But secondly, they just don't have the mental energy to deal with drama. They simply want peace. Ladies, do whatever you can to just have a peaceful relationship. A text quickly. By the way, who wrote most of Proverbs? Solomon. What do you know about Solomon and woman? Would it be fair to say, of all people in the Bible, he probably knows woman the best, right? No? I mean, this guy was experienced galore. This is what Solomon says. Now, of course, this is from a man's perspective. Listen for the peace, wanting peace. Proverbs 21:19. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a quarrelsome and angry woman. This is Solomon. Proverbs 27, verse 15. A never-ending dripping in a very rainy day, drip, 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 and a quarrelsome woman are alike. Solomon says, just give me peace. I'd rather be in the wilderness than with you if there's no peace. If you're constantly going on about things, it's like just a drip, 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 drip that we can't turn off. Just give me peace. I'm over time. Number 5, a man needs a cheerleader. No, 3 is peaceful home. Number 1, admiration and respect. Number 2, emotional intimacy. Number 3, peace. Number 4 is a man needs a wife who cares for herself. Ladies, did you know that the number 1 thing that attracts a man to you is not that pretty little face or that sculptured nice body? The number 1 thing that men find attractive about a woman, even though looks are very important to them, the number 1 thing they find attractive is a quiet confidence. Ladies with low self-esteem are not found attractive at all. Confidence. A lady that's confident, that cares for herself, that looks cared for. If you go out in public and your husband cannot be proud of the way you look, I'm talking about not just clothing stuff, I'm talking about that confidence. I'm talking about being cared for. Then a man is shamed. And it just ruins everything. So please make sure that you look cared for. Next one, number 5, cheerleader. It's important for you, ladies, to be the president of your husband's fan club. He needs to be cheered on. He needs to hear he's doing a good job, etc. It's a fundamental need of men. Number 6, I don't have time to explain these. Number 6, a man needs a wife with a sweet spirit. Sometimes ladies backstab and do things that is quite foreign to men. If you do surveys of thousands and thousands of people who just raised girls versus families who just raised boys, they did not have the other gender as kids, the research is unanimous. The families that just have boys say it's 100 times easier to raise boys than what it is girls, because there's relational issues with girls that you don't always find with men. We just duke it out and it's done. Ladies will continue and find different ways and don't talk to you for a week and remember exclusion, punished by exclusion, and all of that type of thing. when it gets to a relationship where I'm dating a girl and my best friend comes and steals my girlfriend, we're mad at each other and we duke it out for a day and it's over. It's over. Let the reverse happen. And see if another girl steals a girl's boyfriend, what happens? It's never ending. A man needs a woman with a sweet spirit. Number 7. A man needs a woman's intuition. Your intuition, your sense of something is going on, your sense of, I don't know why, but that doesn't sound like a good idea, is something we really need. And I'll talk about that a little bit later today. Ladies, I'll end with one text for you guys. Matthew 27:19. But as he was sitting down on the judgment seat, this is Pilate, his wife sent to him, saying, have nothing to do with this just man, for today, because of him, I have suffered many things in a dream. Pilate's wife was not even in the room. She did not even see Jesus. But because of this dream and these feelings she had, and that woman's intuition, she knew what was the right thing to do here. Men, listen to that. Woman, we men need that because we don't have it. We simply don't have it. And I'll actually talk about this point more in the sermon and beyond. May God bless your relationships. May you be the happiest couples on earth that just bonds together. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for creating us different. Help us to accept those differences. Help us to treat each other the way you want us to treat each other. Help us to think, Lord, not about our needs, about our thinking, about what comes natural to us, but help us to place ourselves in our spouse's shoes so that we'll be able to think like they do and treat them the way they need to be treated. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.